Hi, we're Nia and Marianne from Seren Health Coaching. We are metabolic health coaches who are passionate about good metabolic health for everyone. We also love to chat about all things health and to share as much information as we can with people who want to make changes to their lifestyle but aren't quite sure where to start. We're going to release a new episode every Friday where we talk about a different aspect of health. So do subscribe and let us know what you think. We'd also love to know what you're interested in too. So if there's something that you'd like us to have a chat about, do send us a message and we'll do our best to cover it soon.
Right. Good morning, Nia.
Hello, how are
Or is it
you?
afternoon? Might be. I've
Well,
lost
depends
all.
where you're
I've.
listening, really, doesn't
I've. Yeah. I've lost all
it?
semblance of order because we've also changed, seasonal times here, which is completely
Oh my
confusing.
goodness, the 1 hour jet lag. I'm still
The
suffering.
1 hour jet lag.
I'm still
Yeah.
suffering.
And anyway, the light's very nice at the end of the day,
It
and
is.
we're going to talk about something that I don't know if you'll find exciting actually, because who
Okay.
knows? But we want to talk. I want to talk about Mondays and see what you think.
Okay, this is so to add to my confusion on what time it is, what day it is, we're now
Yeah,
on.
yeah, we on
Oh, okay.
Mondays,
Mondays. Okay,
right?
great.
Okay.
Excellent. It's the Easter holidays next week, Marianne, and I will not have a clue whether I'm coming or
Oh
going.
no, and it's not even Easter next week. But
Well,
anyway.
exactly. Right. Come on then. Tell me
Anyway,
about Mondays.
well, I heard this discussion this week, and it really made me prick up my ears. And it was the sort of title was um, by using Mondays to start making healthy changes. Are you in fact self sabotaging?
Okay.
Which I thought, what does that mean? Self sabotaging. Um, and this whole sort of starting over on a Monday is incredibly common. So we've often
Yeah.
heard it, haven't we? And we've probably
Yeah.
done it ourselves. Okay, this week's no good. I've messed it up now. And so,
Therefore,
yeah, let's start next Monday. So, what's your initial thoughts? Do you like Mondays?
so yeah, I started singing in my head. Tell me why
Yes.
I don't like Mondays.
Yeah, that. That made me
Monday,
think.
Monday by the Mamas
Yeah,
and Papas. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Can't stand that day. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think, and there's Blue Monday, isn't there? I think there's just too many bad things
Connotations.
about
Yeah.
Mondays. But I mean, I don't have a particularly bad association with Mondays, but I don't think we do well at Monday. And we also say it must be the first day of the week, so we must start
Yes. Like the
um
structure we
like a
use in the
structure. And the
structure.
thing is, I don't
Mm.
think it's any more successful to do anything on a Monday,
Do you
really.
know that? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Well, I think interestingly, if you go back years, we would have always started new things on a Monday in the
Mm,
wellness world.
mm,
When we first started this stuff. And I think we were very hooked on meal plans then and exercise regimes, and they tend to be more structured
mm.
than maybe some of the other changes you could
Yeah.
make. So,
Okay, get that.
okay, so I think we probably, you and I, would have done exactly the same. We would have been facilitators of people who started new programs on a
On Mondays.
Monday.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
that new me, new eating regime, new exercise regime, and it's got to start on Monday because actually you can't start it on a Sunday, can you? I mean, why not? But
I
the more you
yeah,
think
and
about it, the more you think, is Monday a great idea?
mm. I don't know, it's interesting. So I think maybe when we talked about the motivational wave, and that's
Yes.
like a cat,
Yeah.
starting the beginning of a new week. The beginning
Yeah.
of a new week's like a fresh page in your diary.
Yes.
You are optimistic about what the week might hold. You've had two days off where you've kind of recovered from the
Yes.
end of last week,
Eaten
and
all the cheese toasties that you need. Yeah.
yeah, so it's sort of symbolism, isn't it? New
Yeah.
beginnings. And
Yeah.
I would, yeah, and as I said, maybe you're less successful if you start a new habit on a Tuesday. But maybe,
Mm.
and I think you're right, all meal plans start on Monday. They
Yes.
absolutely do.
Yeah, they do.
And I think, I mean, there's a free tip for you, diet companies. Why don't you just take the names of the week off and start with day
Yes.
one?
And I thought
Um,
about our course that we designed, and we used day one, not Monday. So that's
yeah.
interesting. So I think
Always
we
ahead of the curve,
yeah,
Mary.
I think we've psychologically moved from the Monday thing because we've worked on programs which have definitely been structured around Monday starts.
Yeah.
And this whole sort of debate about the Monday business also hooks up in a bit with readiness for change, as you'll see,
Mm.
and also the science of habits, and even maybe procrastination, which is something I'd really like to talk about
Oh, I love
in
a
the
bit of
future.
procrastination.
All
I
my
did
favorite sort of
I
topics.
cleaned the sink today because I was procrastinating,
Yes. Oh,
and then I
yes.
had to give
What do you
myself
call that? Displacement, I
a
think. Yeah.
jolly good talking to. Nia, go and do some work and stop cleaning the sink.
It's like, I remember, anything not to do something else, and then interestingly finding ways to use that. So,
Yeah.
there are ways to say, okay, but I will have a clean sink. It's
Yeah,
not such
well,
a bad
it's
thing.
at university when we were all studying for our finals,
Yeah,
the kitchen and the bathroom had
yeah, it
never
was.
been cleaner.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And used to write, I used to have to write to my mother, and I'd think of all the million things yeah, the reasons why I couldn't.
Anyway,
Okay.
Monday.
Okay, let's get back to Monday. So yeah, in the habit changing world, Monday is a big day,
Yeah.
and most people choose to start something new on a Monday, particularly around the meal plans and exercise
Mm,
regimes. But the
mm,
question is, why do so many people find themselves in the same position every Monday? And it's
mm.
that feeling where the next Monday arrives and you still haven't actually got
Actually
this
done
off the
it.
ground. So that's
Mm,
what I got interested in. So is it something to do with the Mondays? So you find yourself always on week one of that new fitness
mm.
regime or the new meal, because it either all fell apart not very long into that week, and
Yeah,
there's lots of reasons why that happens, or you basically
never got
postponed
started.
it.
Yeah. So it's a bit like putting all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your wellness and health
Yeah,
goals into one
yeah,
Monday.
okay.
Yeah. So I often think that we would be better off. So when people say, I want to do this, and I say, well, tell me what day you're going to do that. I
Mm.
often say, let's not do Monday. Let's try,
Yeah,
because actually, not all fitness classes, if you want to go to a fitness class, for example,
yeah,
are on Mondays. Some of
no,
them are on Thursdays. And
exactly. Or even
you
today.
or even today,
Yeah,
there's more
yeah,
to it than
yeah.
that. Yeah. And
Okay.
I think you're right. The problem with Mondays is often we wake up, we've had a great weekend,
Yeah,
and something might happen on a Monday morning. Monday morning is probably the most fraught morning of the
yeah,
week. Um,
exactly.
so trying to then start a new habit then seems counterintuitive. So
In some
therefore,
ways it does. Yeah.
yeah, so therefore we are choosing to be able to postpone that quite easily, aren't we? Because
Well, there's always
we
next
can.
Monday.
There is always another Monday. Well, unless you
Exactly. But we
don't
don't
make
think
that Monday,
about
I
it being
suppose.
Tuesday. Because if you've mucked up Monday, by the way, psychologically, you got to wait for the next Monday. I think that's how it works. And
Mm,
then you'll find those Mondays sort of slipping by. But we always comfort ourselves at the thought that there's another Monday.
yeah, that I think, yeah, that means you can always tick the box
Yeah.
on Monday, but you might also postpone it to next Monday. And then maybe if you didn't make it past Wednesday, it was all because of Monday, or you
Yeah.
just didn't get started because,
Yeah.
as I said, Monday's the most fraught day of the week.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
So let's look at the case for make a case for Mondays. And we've
Make a
alluded
case
to
for
some of
Monday.
these factors already.
Yeah.
Um, as you mentioned, there's this new beginnings and the motivational wave. And Mondays is all about that catching the first bit of that motivational wave. And it just doesn't sound the same to catch it on a Tuesday. But this is a social construct. In other words, we've just constructed this. It's nothing, it's an external thing. This is
Yeah.
not about us. This is about how our society works. I mean, some societies start on a Sunday, so but
Yeah.
we start on a Monday. Okay. And you've got this vision, haven't you? You're
Oh,
going to
yes. Always got the
change and
vision.
initiate a new habit, and the timing has got to be perfect. It's all got to be perfect, actually. Isn't this funny? Um,
Yes.
yeah, so here we go.
Mm.
So the perfectness of changing something on a Monday and having this vision for Monday. And you plan it, don't you? And it gets bigger and bigger. And you even do some prep, maybe you book the gym, you pack your lunches. And we like all that. I mean, we advocate prep, don't we? But it's all hooked into Monday. Okay.
Yeah, and it's almost like a New Year's start again,
Yes.
a new
Yes.
beginning, ideal place to start. But
Exactly.
we hate New Year's resolutions.
Yeah,
But
all
the
that.
truth is, I think maybe we put too much pressure on Mondays. We give
Yes.
Mondays some sort of
Yes. Magic. Yeah.
Yeah, Mondays are not magic, especially in my house. And
Mm.
if things are not perfect, then
Then we
we
can't
give
do
up
them.
so easily
Yeah.
because
Okay.
or we didn't manage it this week. But I mean, it's great that you've always got another opportunity to try again.
Yes.
I'm not against
Yes.
that at all.
No, but
Um,
you could do it the next day.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you
And
don't
there's
actually have to wait a week, do you? You could
no,
just
you
do it again
don't. And there's
tomorrow.
some habit scientists who will tell you there's like they call it the 24-hour rule. So when you
Mm,
fall over, you've got 24 hours to get back on, rather
mm,
than this weekly Monday business. And I think
yeah,
that's quite interesting because the quicker you get back on, I suspect. By get back on, I don't mean you've fallen off the horse. I mean just that you think you have.
yeah,
So, but I suspect by waiting for the next Monday, you're actually just postponing something. And you've also again ticked that box that you've got a plan. So as
yeah.
long as you've got a plan, you're okay for the
Love a
next.
plan.
Yeah, I'll have a plan. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so Monday is the perfect plan, but then
Yeah.
Monday comes and maybe
Yeah.
it's not the right Monday because on
Yeah.
Friday you've got a work meal, or
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Tuesday it's your birthday,
Yeah.
or you've gone on
Haven't we heard
holiday,
this often?
or you're particularly stressed at work because I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe
No,
somebody
that's
rang
not
in
a good
sick.
week. That's not a
It's
good
just not a good
week.
week.
No.
So yes, and then yeah, we try and put it all
Yeah.
in one. All our ducks in a row,
Yes.
all our
Yeah.
monkeys in
Yeah.
one circus, all our eggs in one basket, whatever it is you want to
Yeah.
say. But yeah, it doesn't sort of sit right.
No, really interesting. And when you think about perfectionists, and I mean, lots of us are, lots of us aren't, but it would really irk people to start their program a day late.
Oh
And
yeah, I
we've
mean,
heard that from many clients, haven't we? Well, we
yeah,
can't start this Monday, so we won't be able to do it till or after our holiday, or actually after the term, or there'll be a million reasons
that's
why the
interesting.
external matters that might dictate the success or failure of this plan.
Mm,
And
mm.
so that's quite interesting too. And I think we've
Yeah,
all done it to ourselves.
yeah,
Um, I'm sure I've done it. And the other
yeah,
thing that struck me was this big build up to a major change is
mm,
much more attractive to clients, and
mm,
and small changes which we really advocate now, having learned a few things,
mm.
aren't as attractive because people say, yeah, but I can't only be doing, changing my breakfast. I've got to get on with this. I mean,
Yeah,
I've got my sister's wedding,
yeah. It's got too much
or
to
whatever.
do.
So there's
Yeah,
that
and yeah.
desperation for, now I'm planning this. Now I really want to do this.
And then so
Yeah.
basically you're telling yourself that you cannot make lifestyle changes unless they are
Yeah.
huge and dramatic and overblown
Yes, that's
because
one
they're
thing.
simply not going to work
No.
unless you do that. But we know that that's total
But
tosh because
ironically,
actually,
you've failed a million times in the past
yeah,
on exactly the
in the
same
same
premise.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then so that's where when I found that Tanzanian proverb, little
Yeah.
by little, a little becomes
Yes.
a lot. And I think that's
Well, I
so on
think
brand
that's
for
where
us.
we're going with the Mondays. That is exactly where we're going. But I can see the attractiveness of finding this new plan,
Mm,
and getting ready to do it. And then, right, this is all the ducks are now in a row.
mm.
And from Monday, it's all going to work out. So all you have to do
Mm,
is follow the plan. I mean, this sounds pretty easy, doesn't it?
mm.
Except a few things that make me laugh. One is that we often hear clients saying, but I've got to eat everything in my house first.
Oh, yeah, you gotta eat up all the bad stuff so there's no
Yeah,
temptation.
because, and I've got those magnums in the freezer. So for a start, I'll have to delay this a few days so I can finish all that
All
food.
the magnums, yes,
That's
absolutely.
very weird when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be better off going down your road and giving your neighbors each a magnum. But anyway,
Well, yeah. But then I think there's a problem with that as well, is that you start by making yourself feel
Yes.
bad. So by
Yes.
doing that, you are feeling deprived and
Yes.
restricted and really
Exactly.
sad and
Mm.
naughty, and I'm not allowed
This
nice
is your
things, or I'm not allowed.
punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
we know that when it comes to the psychology of
Yeah.
making changes,
Yeah.
how you feel has a lot to do with how
Yeah.
successful you'll
It's
be.
huge. Yeah.
So actually, you're doing yourself a disservice by saying I've got to eat up all the magnums in my house, because you're just going to make yourself feel really sad.
Well, you know that it's ironic because you've been overeating and got there in the first. We're not only talking about weight here, but
Yeah.
that is one of the sort of noticeable things that make people start new regimes. So
Mm,
I'm using overeating. But if you've been overeating on what a lot of treats, it makes absolutely no sense to gorge on them just before you start the program. It's almost psychologically, if you can make yourself weigh a bit more, it'll be more exciting when it comes down. And I can
mm,
see there's some truth in that, but this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work.
mm.
Um, so I suppose from all of that, the thing I wanted to get out was that small changes look less exciting to clients. That's
They
one
do. They
real
do
problem
look
for
less
us.
exciting. But
Yeah,
so I actually think the other point I was going to make, and it completely flew out of my brain, sorry,
yeah,
was that I think these big changes, these big "let's start on Monday" plans,
yeah.
there's a lot of it in the marketing. Like
Exactly. Oh,
the clever
exactly.
marketing, the PR they get is very enticing and
Yeah.
very much like, well, we're going to start on Monday, and by 6 weeks' time, again, oh yes, in the 6 weeks' time you'll be skinny. Remember that one?
I
And
saw
so,
a great one marketing thing the other day which said, "Give us 2 weeks and you're going to lose £10,"
oh my
which
goodness,
is
that's a
a
stupid
lie,
thing to
but
say.
because everyone starts from a different place for a start,
Yeah.
and I mean you can lose £10 of water weight in the first week
Yeah.
of restricting your diet. But that that doesn't mean anything in terms of long-term sustainability. Anyway, we all know those catchy things that catch people's eyes who are vulnerable to that catch.
Mm. So yeah, I think it's often about provoking some sort of
Mm.
self-esteem issue rather than actually what they can do. But
Mm.
anyway,
And inspiring people, I suppose. I mean, I still dream about that book, I always tell you about, called The 5 a.m. Club,
yeah, I'm not
because
entirely sure it's inspiring. I just think it's
I'm
not the
inspired, you
5 a.m.
see.
club. That is definitely not inspiring, and I think you're mad.
I'm
But
really inspired by it. You see, different things inspire us. But
I don't. I'm not entirely sure.
would I
Mm,
start that on a Monday? I think maybe I would.
yeah, you
And
would. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Anyway, we
anyway,
know for a fact, from experience and
yeah,
from actual behavioral change psychology, that small changes work in the long term.
they do.
The things like doing a couple of squats, well, not a couple,
Yeah,
but 10 squats while you wait for the kettle, or
even
changing
5,
your
yeah, yeah.
breakfast. All of these things work, but what
And
is
why
it?
do they work?
Why do they work? Because they're easy, they're simple, they're
Yeah, so
not
they so easy you can't not do them.
so easy you can't not do them. Most of us wait for the kettle more than once a day.
Yeah,
All of these things that do.
yeah. So these very tiny doable things
Mm,
look boring on paper. So
of
if
course
you
they do.
said
They don't have the marketing.
no, so if you've got a client today who says, "Look, this is where I want to go," and they've got that vision and there's their goals, and you say, "I want you to do 5 squats every time you boil a kettle," they'll
Yeah,
be really disappointed.
they would be.
But actually, I hate to say, and we both know this, that that might well be the best way to start this
Mm,
very small change, which you get so excited when, I mean, I did press ups, didn't I? And I couldn't do them at all. But
mm,
when you can do 2 press ups, when you couldn't do any at all, and then you can do 10, the
mm,
excitement's enormous. But you don't
mm.
know that. You don't know it's coming.
No, no. Interesting. Okay,
Hmm.
right. So Monday, 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 Monday.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about Monday?
So I suppose what we sell really is a much softer approach, and as you say, very small, doable things, and then build up that confidence that these tiny changes will add up, and we try to take the pressure off. There's so much
Yeah.
pressure attached to this Monday, isn't
Yeah,
there?
I think the pressure attached to Monday and starting your, new life on Monday is almost comparable to the pressure of when I watch reels on Instagram, which I'm trying not to do at the moment,
Mm,
um, because of
yeah.
people's perfect houses. Because most of the time,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
house
yeah.
looks like a bomb's gone off
Yeah,
because
sure. Because 'cause you've got a real
we
life,
live
you
in it
know.
and we keep
Yeah.
going in and out of the house, and we
Yeah,
can't just stay in.
yeah.
It's a tricky, really tricky kind of, I
It
haven't got time to do all the housework in the time that I would like to get it done because,
Yeah,
we
you've
have
got other things
real
to do,
life.
which are more important actually in the long line of life because the housework comes around and comes around.
Well, it's like I don't want my kids to go, well, I had a really boring life because all my mother did was spend
Well, I'm
her time
sure. Nice
cleaning.
clean house. I mean, do
Yeah.
they care? No?
So sorry guys, I do not have a nice clean house, but I do lots of stuff with my children.
Exactly. Another interesting thing I read was that because you sub out your motivation to the plan,
Mm.
so you've bought a plan or
The
you've
plan is motivating you rather
exactly,
than the
but
other way
it's
around.
extrinsic motivation and it's very much there. So that first, we talked about it with the motivational wave. You've basically tuned out your own intrinsic business here.
Mm.
You've just sold it off to the plan. So the plan becomes your accountability and your motivation. But as you
Mm.
and I know, unless you accept intrinsic motivation eventually, like I'm doing this for me, the
Yeah,
rewards are
it's not gonna
mine,
work.
it's not going to work. So
No.
there's a few things that aren't going to work. One is feeling deprived and restricted right from
Yeah,
day one.
yeah.
The other one is subbing out the motivation to the plan. So someone might even be incredibly disciplined and do a whole 12 weeks of a plan. I mean, people do.
Yeah, people do, and it isn't actually, that's another thing, isn't it? Once you get over that first hurdle,
Yes.
it is easier to do that.
Yeah. But all along in your head, you've still subbed out the motivation to the plan.
Well, of
So
course, because
unless you
what you're gonna
make
do
that
at the end of week 12, you've got no
exactly.
plan
No,
anymore.
and I think that's another marketing thing. And of course, the plan does work. So you then blame yourself when things come undone because the plan did work, but you
Yes,
couldn't keep to it.
yes, and it's your fault. Yeah,
And I
and then
think you're
and then
almost literally set up to fail.
yeah, and then the people who sell you the plan tell you that anyway.
Well,
Right.
yes. Well, you accept that they did their bit and it worked, and
Mm.
now you can't seem to do yours. I find it fascinating. I'm never starting anything on a Monday, except the 5 a.m. club. No, I'm only teasing. I'll
You are
never
not.
start that anyway. But I'm at 6 a.m. at the moment, so only because of
Well,
the
I think we're all
jet
at
lag.
6 a.m. at the
Yeah,
moment
it's
because the
only because
flipping
of the jet
clocks changed.
lag. And
Oh,
maybe on the next one or the next one, we talk a bit about procrastination because I've always been very interested in that and whether that's innate personality, whether there's other factors there, which of course we know there are, whether
yeah.
you and I are, in a partnership. You know that thing about partnerships I love,
Mm.
about packing dishwashers. There's
Oh,
always
yeah.
one who packs like a Swedish architect and the other like a raccoon on meths.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Apparently, I'm
do.
the raccoon,
Are
but
you
I don't
interesting?
believe this. I just think,
Get the stuff in the dishwasher and
yeah, I
switch
mean, I
it
really
on.
don't care what it looks like as long as
No.
it's clean when it comes out. But
It's a
my
bit
husband
like cleaning
disagrees.
your car. Anyway, let's not go there. Gender stuff is not for this podcast. But I do believe
Oh, we could have free
we
therapy,
could. Oh,
Marianne.
we could on air. I do believe that this is a bit true of procrastination, that it might be that there's a yin and yang in there, and there's a playoff in partnerships where
Mm,
one becomes less of a procrastinator or is
yeah.
allowed to be more of a procrastinator than the other.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Anyway, opposites attract and all that. I'm definitely the raccoon, by the way, in my house.
Was it?
But I'm
Yeah.
married to not an architect, an engineer, but they're as bad.
Mm.
Even if half the dishwasher is empty, it still has to be packed in a certain way. Anyway, let's not go there. But I
Do you
mean,
know the most exciting thing I ever heard? And this lady that this thing was someone who has a large family, but they had
yes,
their kitchen redone and they got two dishwashers,
yes, one
one for
for
clean, like one that would always have the clean stuff in, and the one that would be like filled up
yeah,
with the dirty
yeah,
stuff. And I thought, I don't have as many kids as you, but I could have two dishwashers
yeah. It
quite
would be
easily.
probably. I just don't understand the logic sometimes, but I'm pretty logical. And you would have thought the Swedish architect would be logical, but there's
Well,
something illogical about spending so much energy in certain. Anyway, let's not go on. We sort of know the story, don't we? But maybe, thank goodness, opposites attract and all that. Because
mm.
maybe if there were two procrastinators, it would get quite messy. Um, I have a feeling when we talk about that that you might be on a different side to me. But anyway, more of that next time.
Well, yeah, interesting. I'd love to talk about
Interesting.
procrastination, but now I have to go and take my kids to something else that I'm not able
Exactly.
to
Well, there's certain bits of your life that cannot be procrastinated,
procrastinate.
of
No,
course. No, we
indeed.
all have our Achilles heels. Um, all right, nice to
Speak
speak.
to you next time.
Speak to you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.